Dobrze, udało nam się.
All right, we are back. We lost again sometimes, so again we will have to get organized very efficiently. I can see that Annamaria Lisotti is already on stage. So over to her. She is a participant of a consortium, and now she will talk about another project of hers.
Okay, so it's there. Final. Okay. Super. Hello from Italy. I will present you shortly a project which is not the BeReady project, but I think there are many intersections. This is an Erasmus project which is going to end this summer, and it was about bring AI in schools. And I like to start with this sentence which was shared by teachers and students. The future depends on what you do in the present. So the idea of the school, this was the coordinating school, this is my school. We are in a small rural area in Italy. This is just, I think, to inspire you that you can try and do things networking all over Europe, even if you are not in a central area. In our area there are some cons. We have a lot of people commuting for studying and working. There is a relatively isolation, both cultural and geographical, even if I would say that in Italy it's a bit hard, at least in the north, to say that you are really isolated. And of course there is the aging population, which is typical of the mountain areas. But on the other side, there are human resources, which I think is the key, probably even more than funds, always. An inclination to innovation from the teachers, international experience. You can see some of the projects that have been done in the years. And last but not least, a good connection. We were one of the first villages who had fiber optics. Why I'm saying this? Because when we made up our partnership, we decided that it should have big cities. One of the patterns was in Vienna, a school with more than 3,000 students. But on the other side, there was our school, small on the mountains, and for instance, a very small island in Greece near the Turkish coast, Kalymnos. And then in Spain, we had Pamplona, which is a big town, but not as big as Vienna. What was uniting these four schools? The idea that in the artificial intelligence age, where we are now, I think that even in Poland you have heard a lot recently about ChatGPT. For instance, Italy has banned it, and there is a lot of debate about it in the country. But however, what is interesting for us now is that we radically need to rethink education. It's not just the pandemics, it's what's happening even now, even in this wider landscape of artificial intelligence. And when I'm thinking, I'm saying rethinking education, it means not just tools that you are learning, but a new methodology, new approaches, and I think that this is really the key, new opportunities. So what is needed is a change in perspective. Students, and before them also teachers, need to be trained in these new tools. I think that probably teachers need it more than you, because here there are a lot of students, and I see that students are very quick to learn and take up many of these tools. But the thing is, shall we use these tools to recook old things or to do new things? Also because there is a very fast obsolescence of these tools. When we started the project 3 years ago, we had a view, we had ideas, and in 3 years we had to change almost, not completely, but we had to change a lot. Because it is very quick, it is very fast, and what school education needs to decide is if we want to educate Series B robots, which means students who are doing things that robots can do much better than them, or if we want Series A humans, which I think is the important thing. So the new technology is here, and initially, as usual, use it to make all the work easier, but then there must be something more to that. So what I think is that, yes, we can ask more to students because we have new tools that empower them to do more. So this is really what is the opinion shared by the teachers in the project, and also on our part, there is the big question, what has still sense to teach if we have to change this perspective? And one of the nice, funny things that we did, we asked the colleagues in the school, for instance, with ChatGPT, to assign a task that they usually did as homework, and to evaluate it, to assign it to ChatGPT or to any other generative artificial intelligence. And we asked them to evaluate them, trying to be really objective. In most cases, they found out that the machine could do it. So does this still have a sense to give this kind of task to students? This is an open question. The subjects involved in the projects, as you can see, were quite a lot, according to the school, to the country, but they go from ethics to English, robotics, ICT. What we wanted to stress it is that AI is not just a scientist thing. It's not just for students who are thinking of science in their future, engineers, mathematicians. It is much more. It is touching on all the citizens. And we think that AI will be successfully implemented in school when it will not be math teachers, physics teachers, ICT teachers who are the leaders, but the other subjects are. I will just try to show you some examples. The project decided to work along 3 lines. The first line, it was also a marketing strategy, was to think of tools for teachers. I mean, there are a lot of tools that students use or can use, but also teachers can use them to enhance their productivity, to support innovation. And then there is a whole batch of things, of topics, which are, I don't think that any future citizen of Europe and of the world cannot know. I mean, there are so many things about artificial intelligence impacting on us that all students should be aware of them, no matter what they are doing in their future life. And third and last one, which was the one most involving students, how to have a new didactics. So we tried to have teachers find, test new tools, and also have tried to have activities, design activities, and test them. The idea is that students with this kind of tools can really go to empowerment in their learning, a learning which can be more inclusive, more personalized. So just to make a few examples, with AI you can have a tutor age 24, because just imagine, for instance, a foreigner student. In Italy we have a lot of problems with this, with migration, and for instance, you can ask the artificial intelligence to reformulate a text to a lower level, to more, you can take, I don't know, something like about physics, which is very difficult, and ask the machine to reformulate at a certain level, and it does. Of course, you are losing some of the informations, but at least you can give comprehension. Imagine someone who doesn't know the language and is thrown into the school. But for instance, you can have conversation with the machine, and this is a way, maybe not the optimal one, but you can learn a language as if you were talking to someone from another country. And okay, I will not go through all these examples, but yes, you can scan a huge amount of papers, summarize, find keywords and so on, without having, I mean, you can have the artificial intelligence do the dirty work for you and then concentrate on the most important things. And just to talk about artificial intelligence, I don't know if some of you know this, but there are already machine searching engines based on machines. There is Perplexity AI, there is you.com, this is ChatGPT and for Google, which is probably most famous, but it seems that really the future of search engines will be a future where you are dialoguing, not putting keywords with your engine. Okay, this is again about an overview of how teachers' creativity can be empowered. For instance, we asked the artificial intelligence to create rubrics and use them to give to the students to prepare for the test, and also to then we use them for the text. One of the things that I think is extremely powerful is the fact that you can give feedback. You can, as a student, you can receive feedback almost immediately. I don't know about your teachers, but for me, when I have 60 papers to correct, I can try to be very fast, but sometimes it takes me a week to bring back the tests. In this case, it's much easier to give feedback and the corrected test immediately to the students. Okay. What we noticed, it is quite obvious, but again, we wanted to stress it, the tools become obsolete very early. Some of them are already, let's say, old after, let's say, 6 months, but ideas are not becoming obsolete. I mean, if these tools are used by teachers with a new view, with the idea to empower flipped classrooms, for instance, to work with a more active didactics, to focus on the process. I mean, there has been a lot of talking about with ChatGPT and similar, students will cheat. But the question is, why should students want to cheat if they are there to learn? You are spending a lot of time in school. So, are you spending the time supposedly because you want to learn, because you are working for your future? So what you want is not to cheat to get marks, or you should not, but you want to learn, to know more things. So if really the focus of the discussion is about cheating or not cheating, I think that education should really refocus and rethink of what they are proposing to students. The base for the new era of education is definitely a learning alliance between students and teacher. I know that you have powerful tools, I know you can use them, and you can decide if you want to try to cheat and learn almost nothing, and of course, if I found this out, then it will impact on your marks, or if we want to be allied and work with these tools to enhance your learning. So one of the things which are more impressive, I don't know if you use them, is all this set of tools of generative AI. And I think this is extremely interesting for students' creativity. For instance, an Italian teacher, L1, mother tongue, worked with the students, and the students trained the machine to have a lot of texts from poetry of a certain age or a certain poet. And then once the machine was trained, they gave a seed word, and from the seed word, the machine created poetry. And it was nice because some of them were very nice also, and you could reflect. This was, I think, the important thing in didactics. You could reflect on which were the characters that the machine found that were distinctive of this age of this poem. And so a discussion can start. And this is the opinion of the teacher, who was not really very keen on ICT before this, but she tried, she tested, and I think we convinced her. As a tool, we used Google Colab, and when I was saying that things are already old, this needed students to do a bit of coding, not much. Now you can do the same thing after 1 year with ChatGPT with absolutely no code. It depends on which are your objectives in teaching. And then about with generative AI, we had a lot of fun in arts. I don't know if you know this project. This project is Next Rembrandt. The machine was trained on Rembrandt pictures and created a new one. And students went with this picture also to art teachers, and they were not able to see that it was, let's say, a fake one. And we had a lot of generative art with coding, with open processing, which let us reflect about how you can generate art from algorithms. And also we had a bit of input from data. With data, we created the dynamic art. So the question here, just to make it short, is can AI be creative? Because one of the things that we have been hearing in the past year was, okay, AI will take out some kind of jobs, but creativity is human. There is no risk of being challenged in this area. And actually, we could maybe rethink what we think creativity is. Or we may think that AI is there to empower human creativity. I don't know if you know this, but there are already authors writing books together with AI. They are co-writing, which means that they make brainstorming, AI writes some pieces, and then the author revises it, makes it better, and so on. So probably this is the real way to think about it. And if you are keen about the real artistic and graphical part, visit this and you will see a lot of experiments of artists working with AI. So here, since I think that the slides will be on the website, then you can have a look afterwards. Here are some of the tools that we were tried to test. And about writing, reading, and learning, you can, maybe you know some of them. RedWordify is very, very interesting and free. Not all of them are free. And then there are here for image generation, probably you know DALL-E, which is from OpenAI, like ChatGPT, but there are a lot of other ones, even free ones. And there are also about music and sound. You can really generate dialogues. So for instance, for language teachers, it is very interesting because then you can have your students exercise even in oral skills. and more tools about productivity and different things. I mean, I don't think that there is any subject who can't find a tool. And another thing they did was to ask ChatGPT which tools were there for their subject. And they got some strange suggestions, but also some interesting ones. I think one of the main things that really is interesting for each of you, and that school should not consider, is a whole batch of ethical issues rising with artificial intelligence. I like this picture because we asked the students to say what they thought she was doing. And some thought she was going to a party or having something like this. Actually, this girl is a civic guardian, they call themselves, which means that she's demonstrating that it is possible to defend your privacy from facial recognition, which now has gained momentum and has reached extremely high levels. This is a map. Okay, let's go. This is a map of the countries who are already violating civil rights using all the cameras and facial recognition. But what I think it is creepy is how many countries have the potential to do this, but at this moment now, they choose not to do this because they are democratic countries. But if something changed, the technology is in their hands as well. So, for instance, here you can see the students who are manifesting against the Chinese and their freedom in universities, and they're wearing the umbrellas and the masks just not to be recognized. So this is actually a problem. And it is fun, because we found out that there are people who are trying to find solutions, like a way of cutting your hairs or makeup, which is puzzling the machine, because the algorithms is not recognizing this as a human. Or again, Italy is the country of fashion. There is a startup of 2 young girls who are producing dresses which are quite strange, but not so bad after all. And if you are, if the camera is looking at you, is not seeing you as a human. And what is behind this is, okay, freedom versus security. But what the girls were saying in an interview is, we are not hiding. If there is some human observing us, they will see us, they can recognize us. We are not criminals, so our face is seen. What we don't know is a massive recognition by a machine which doesn't have a soul. So this is one of the things to think about. Because imagine how many of your images are around in the net when you are sharing pictures on socials and so on. And then there is, maybe this is famous, there are dilemmas related, for instance, to autonomous driving cars. What about cars that need to choose? If someone is stepping in the road, will they decide to run them over and keep the driver safe or not? And what about, will this choice depend on the number of people you are running over, on the age? For instance, this was quite a nice question, because they asked the people to vote if there is a tram, there are no brakes, and the tram is going to hit 5 people, but if you are moving here, this button, it will just have 1 victim. And people mainly, of course, voted for this, which is the less evil, but when the question was reformulated, there is a fat man on a bridge. Shall you push him And so if he's falling on the track, he will stop the tram and save the people. There was not the same answer, because this was considered as something like more criminal. So you see there are some subtleties which are typically human and also depend on cultures, and we don't know if the machine is acting and thinking in the same way. There was an important work. You can see moralmachine.net. You can still answer the questionnaire from MIT, and they found out that we don't have a globally shared ethics. If you go in Asia, people will answer that it is better to run over a baby than an old man, because aging people are considered more important. There is a reverence for them. If you are in the West, in Europe, for instance, if you have to choose, probably you will decide to make the baby live because you think that there is still the life in front of him and so on. But consider that when you are training machines, there are humans behind them. So who's going to train them? How can we ask machines to choose and to have an ethics if we still don't have a shared world ethics? And I leave you about the ethical issues a last nice example. There is an app. You can connect to the web and find it. It is called Ask Delphi. Again, the researchers, this was a research work, wanted to see what the machine was answering. It is wrong, it is right. And so again, and I would say we did this before even suspect times, so when we didn't have some political problems in Italy, we tried to formulate almost the same question. It was about migrants, if to accept them or not. And you can see that the machine gave different, it says, sending migrants back to their country, it's wrong. Let migrants in the sea, you know that for Italy the great problem is if you are sending someone back, most of the time you are sending them to the sea. It is dangerous. Pushing back migrants from my border, you know, there is the stress of the wars on my border. It's okay. So imagine maybe another situation when a machine will observe your curricula or will interview you and decide if you are entering a university or you will get a job. And this machine will examine the words. How are the machines really understanding these words? What's the difference? And to tell you that there is still a lot to go, look at this, which is quite fun.